I give my take on Alfred Payton, and have the chances gone up for the Hornets to actually land Donovan Mitchell? We'll discuss all of that today on Locked On Hornets.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast. That includes YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, at Walker Mail, at Doug Branson, LOH, at Locked On Hornets, where this is the show. The duo is back, and the duo is back to do basically 90% of our preparation through trying to decide what jingles we wanted to play in the third segment.
It's important work, I mean, and listen, it's not construction work, but it is hard work, and it's important work. And I just want to say right off the bat, welcome back, Walker. And then I want to say that if you see my eyes darting around randomly at the room, I've got a family of gnats. It's not even a couple of gnats. I think I've got 3 or 4. It's a nuclear family of gnats. They're attracted to the lighting that I have in here, and I'm doing my best with them, but they're distracting me.
Have the bees machine actually caused too much radioactive
what attracts? That's right. Yeah, like a light, okay. Like one of those lights that attracts flies before murdering them. That is what the bees machine, which is what we use to randomly select box scores on Every Hornets Boxscore. For those not in the know, go to everyhornetsboxscore.com, sign up for my substack. So that's what we use. And yes, I believe that is the cause. It's certainly not the 2-week-old fruit cup that I left in the trash can. It's not that. I've ruled that out.
Yeah, no, that'll do it. Just stay safe. Please stay safe. The bees machine can cause a lot of havoc. Let's talk about Alfred Payton some more. And
hold on, stop.
Alfred Payton.
Well, you did that.
Yeah.
We have to. You did that because I misspelled it on the graphic. Mm-hmm. And you corrected it, and you saw the misspelling on the graphic and corrected me.
That's right.
And now you are dealing with the punishment of that, which is that it got stuck in your mind as Alfred.
It's what I did get for actually trying to proofread stuff before we get on here. So Alfred Payton is now who he shall be remembered as. Alfred Payton is in the mix to be a possible backup point guard candidate for the Charlotte Hornets. So as you talked about yesterday, Doug, appreciate you manning the ship by yourself. You did discuss some Alfred Payton numbers. He is in the mix along with Isaiah Thomas and Kemba Walker. Alfred probably the least popular among those, and yet he might be the most, I don't know if he's the most qualified defensively. He's the most qualified compared to the other two. And I think that's where you have to look at what kind of advantage he's going to bring to this team. So my take on that is if you go to Kemba, then you're looking for him to resurrect some type of Kemba capabilities that we loved him so a couple of years ago. Every 15 games, every 10 games, like where can you get the lightning in a bottle that was that Kemba Walker every now and then off of the bench? Isaiah Thomas, kind of same thing. Caught a hot stretch when he signed with the Hornets as a three-point shooter, but we also know the liability he is on the defensive end. Alfred, his offensive production wasn't great anyway, and it completely tanked last year with the Phoenix Suns. If you look at his numbers, didn't play a whole lot. Phoenix didn't want to roll with him. That was a really good team. And I think that's why because they're not playing guys like Alfred Payton. So they're playing him like 11 minutes a game, averaged, I think, 3 points per game, did not have great shooting. You pointed out the fact that he wasn't a great shooter at the rim. He could get there a little bit, but did not finish at the rim. Yet still, this is defensively. Like, this is what we're dealing with. I probably, considering the players we're mentioning now, value the mentorship factor of one Isaiah Thomas, the fact that LaMelo Ball wanted and was not very vocal, but at least put out on Twitter that he'd like to have Isaiah Thomas back. So maybe that would be the guy I choose. But Alfred, at least, long, provides some size in the backcourt and can help you on that end of the floor as much as the other two, certainly.
I guess I would be fine with this if, this idea of bringing in a guard to help some of your perimeter defense issues, if I thought that it would solve the problem, which I don't think it will, the problem's going to be solved by LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier committing on that end of the floor and Steve Clifford coming in and giving them a defensive scheme that they can buy into. That's how the problem's going to be solved. The other problem that I have with a possible Alfred Payton signing is that it sabotages your offense. It's not that he's a liability on offense. It's that he sabotages your offense. And Walker, offense is what makes this team go. It might improve defensively on the margins because of Steve Clifford and because of some commitments by veteran players on this team. But it's only going to improve on the margins. This is not going to be a significantly better defensive team next season. So why would you want to make your offense, which powers your engine, significantly worse? And that's what signing Alfred Payton would do.
Look, this is the conversation we should be having is they waited way too long. They didn't make any moves. And now this is what we're dealing with, right? I mean, the backcourt is not going to be fixed by going after Alfred Payton, Isaiah Thomas, or Kemba Walker. If you want the most amount of firepower possible, I think Kemba gives you the best of that type of capability. But you also have emotional baggage coming with the signing of Kemba Walker. Do you want to go through a second breakup? Is that something you as a Hornets fan are ready for? I don't know. You have to answer that yourself. But I know that quite a few Hornets fans might not exactly be thrilled with another Hornets breakup with him. Because if Kemba comes in, provides some decent play, and then they move on from him, well, that's just going to anger the fan base once again. I absolutely understand why the Hornets wouldn't want to engage in that. But here they are interested because they don't have a whole lot of backcourt depth. It's what kind of turned on the light bulb for me when I was talking with Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball. We had simplified it so much to who is the backup point guard this year, where in reality, it's like, man, just the overall backcourt depth in general. Like, we're going to have to try to make Cody Martin a two-guard at times again. Kelly Oubre might have to play some more two-guard unless you trade him. And then if you do you get a more defensive-minded type of 6'5" guy or under? Like, this is not something that the Hornets are particularly deep at. You have to look at the front court for those type of role players. And the Hornets, the only move they made was to bring Cody Martin back. I think that can be a part of the frustration as to Hornets do something nation.
Yeah, short of a major signing, a major move, a major trade, this team is going to be worse than they were last season. Vegas has them at 36.5. I know you're probably taking the under on that.
I guess 34. Yeah, before Vegas came out with a number.
Yeah, so if that's going to be the case, then I think if you are going to make these fringe signings, I think they need to focus on fun, on just putting a great product on the floor. And I think of those three options, Isaiah Thomas, Kemba Walker, and Alfred Payton, I think Alfred is the least fun of those options. I don't think he significantly makes you better on defense. I think that I would be more
the least fun.
I think I would be more comfortable if, God forbid, something were to happen to Terry Rozier or LaMelo Ball. I'd be more comfortable with seeing IT or Kemba on the floor again for this team offensively to keep that engine moving and at least try to outscore teams every once in a while, because you're not going to beat them on the defensive end.
The last thing I'll say before we move on is I don't think the Cody Martin conversation has been had enough as far as his backcourt type of play, because remember, that was a part of the appeal when they drafted him out of Nevada and they tried having him handle the basketball. I remember Cody playing pretty soon upon being that second round pick and looking shook out there, especially when it came to shooting the basketball, especially when it came to doing anything outside of passing. And then I think he gained a lot of confidence. I think you could see it if you put on, the first few games of his first year and then put on the last few, you see a very big difference in just his comfort level on the floor. Is that something you want to experiment with again? Or maybe a better question is that something you have to experiment with again because of the lack of bodies? It does help you defensively, no doubt about that. Offensively, maybe that's where you worry about some turnovers, and then LaMelo, all right, you have to come back in because we desperately need you. Isaiah, all right, we'll just sacrifice defense, and then hopefully Isaiah can get hot. I do think Cody Martin is something they're going to have to experiment with as far as more time in the backcourt handling the basketball.
Well, and that experimentation might be just the fact that what you were talking about earlier, the guard depth is so thin. That experimentation might be forced upon the team if they suffer one or two injuries in the preseason or early in the season.
And we're not mentioning James Bouknight a lot, who continues to be one of the more fascinating questions.
I'll mention him. Team. I'll mention when I can see him. I haven't been able to. People are like, why don't you talk more about Bouknight? Well, where's Bouknight been? He's been injured. I can't talk about something I haven't seen. Talk to Mitch and James Borrego for not playing James Bouknight all last season. It's not my fault. I'm sorry. I can't talk about something I haven't seen. Get off my back. These gnats are killing me.
Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Are the Nats the YouTube commenters or the actual Nats in your room?
The Hornets. The Hornets are killing me.
There was something there, and I was trying to figure it out at the beginning of the show. Thank you. We needed to get Hornets.
Locked on Hornets.
Yeah, we needed to get something worked in there. All right. Let's go on to something that is an awful, awful transition. Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? What's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit. It's no big deal, right? Well, you're wrong. The truth is your reaction time slows way down when you're high. You not only pull and put yourself into danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high. Get a DUI. We'll come back with plenty more talk on the Charlotte Hornets coming up next. Locked On Hornets podcast.
Is Locked On Hornets.
Well, don't let me hit my take on that, because that's not what I mean. I don't mean that he shouldn't be in the NBA.
That's what you meant, and it's disrespectful.
I mean that.
You're Anthony Tolliver. I'm Trevion Graham. That's who I love.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
All right, Doug, we have the spinning wheel of random topics coming up in the third segment. What do we have planned here in the second, as I'm still trying to shake the bad transition into a very serious read going into the second segment?
Well, it's something that popped up. We're recording this late on Tuesday, and I'm glad we're recording late today, because this is something that popped up very recently. Woj reporting that the New York Knicks are going to sign R.J. Barrett to an extension, and if you haven't been, these stupid Nats, if you haven't been keeping up with all of this drama around the Knicks and the Jazz and Donovan Mitchell, a lot of the talks between the two teams seem to hinge around R.J. Barrett. Would the Jazz be interested in taking back Barrett, maybe for less picks? Or are they not interested in R.J. Barrett, but maybe the Knicks were interested in getting rid of R.J. Barrett and not giving up so many picks? Well, the Knicks took R.J. Barrett completely off the table by extending him, and now the question is, Walker, does this effectively end the talks between Utah and New York? And could the Jazz re-engage teams like the Hornets and Wizards, who have been rumored to be talking to the Utah Jazz about Donovan Mitchell?
You know, I go to a tweet Andy Bailey had, and he put picks, Quentin Grimes, and salary filler for Donovan Mitchell always felt way more realistic than R.J. Barrett anyway. And that could be true. R.J. Barrett did not have to be absolutely included in this deal, but it has to revive the reality of the Charlotte Hornets being able to land Donovan Mitchell. It definitely doesn't hurt the Hornets' chances. Now, you still have to have the best package to go get Donovan Mitchell. Does that mean that the Hornets and their 3 first-round picks, their couple of pick swaps, and their best young asset that has already played in the NBA being PJ Washington, unless you want to argue Mark Williams, whatever, right? That's not the debate I'm interested in. Do those types of young assets having already played, along with the 5 picks, is that better than Grimes, Quickly, salary filler, and all of the 8 picks at the expense of the New York Knicks that they can, figure out what combination? I still don't think that beats the New York Knicks offer, Doug. Yes, it only enhances the Hornets' chances at getting it. It doesn't hurt. At the same time, you still are picking the Knicks, what they're offering, more so than I think the Hornets or the Wizards, who are also included.
Walker, sometimes you don't have to have the best package.
Okay.
Sometimes you just have to have the only package. If you wait, if my dating life taught me anything, sometimes you just have to wait around long enough until you're the only thing remaining. And then suddenly you look pretty great in comparison. Don't ask producer Katie if that's how we're married. But, sometimes you don't have to have the best package. Sometimes you just wait around long enough. So maybe Charlotte Hornets, they wait around long enough and suddenly their package looks a lot better in comparison because it's the only package.
I'm trying to hold it together, Doug. I really am. I'm very much
sometimes
trying my best.
Sometimes it doesn't have to be the biggest package.
No.
Sometimes if there are no other packages, all of a sudden you've got the biggest package. Nothing to compare it to. So maybe the Wizards, they take their package away. The Knicks, they take their package away. All of a sudden, the Hornets package, looking pretty good. What?
I don't know if the Hornets have the only package here. They might.
They just got to wait around long enough.
If we want to compare the Donovan Mitchell trade rumors to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, nobody wanted him as badly. The Nets weren't getting what they valued Kevin Durant at, and therefore they're just going to keep him. Right now, a little bit different. That contract is still long for KD, and he's old. The difference is Donovan Mitchell is 25 years old and could be a part of a rebuilding team, because we saw with the Thunder, SGA is an awesome player and they're still losing a ton of games. So Utah could still lose a lot while Donovan Mitchell is out there still filling up the box score, but it's not going to help them win a ton of games given the lack of talent they have around them, especially losing Rudy Gobert and trading him for a whole bunch of picks. So Utah could do that. They are not in any kind of hurry to get this done, in my opinion. So if that's the case, then I don't know if waiting around long enough is going to be the thing that gets it done for the Hornets. Now, maybe the Knicks do want to go away. Maybe they're trying to get to the playoffs this year and they decide to make a couple of other moves. But still, they're going to have enough left over to be in the sweepstakes and compete with the Hornets and the Wizards to go after Donovan Mitchell. And at that point, I still find it hard to believe that this thing is actually going to happen for Charlotte.
I'm with you. I mean, I think the probabilities are still pretty low that this gets done, but there's a glimmer of hope. And this is more than just like, see, this is what I've been telling people all along. If you hear these things about these conversations that the Utah Jazz, this is all Danny Ainge special, oh, I got two mystery teams over here. And, oh, we've been talking to the Hornets and Wizards. It's all an effort to try to negotiate out in the public, which is where Danny Ainge loves to negotiate, out in the public to the media. That's all this has been. And the Hornets really haven't been in that conversation. If the Hornets get a deal done, it's going to be all of a sudden, but it's going to be like this, where other deals that the Utah Jazz would be more interested in are going to suddenly fall away. And then if you're the Hornets, I think you have to at that point consider re-engaging. Sometimes, look, if the package isn't big enough, sometimes you have to stuff the package, right? I mean, you have to make it so you throw in some stuff, you stuff it, you make it look a little bigger, and then suddenly you get the deal done.
Yeah. I think the Hornets might need to go find some stuffing for that package to try to figure out.
Maybe a little Kai Jones stuffing, maybe a little James Bouknight stuffing. I mean, throw some young players in there that maybe you wouldn't have been as willing to give up when you didn't feel like there's a chance. But all of a sudden, hey, you're the only person on the dance floor. And you look like a great deal. And, you move forward.
Bringing individual players into that conversation felt wrong. I wish we could have still spoke with some generic value there. No reason. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
We spin the random wheel of topics. I have no clue what we're going to talk about. I try to tease it, but I can't because I'm going to leave that to the wheel. Coming up next, Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
So wait a minute. Do we value players that forget plays all of a sudden? I thought we loved LeBron James because he remembered he could cite to you every single play from every game he's ever played in. Now all of a sudden we like players who have no idea what happened on the previous play.
I don't think you want him to play scared, right?
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Okay, there you see on the screen, if you are watching Locked On Hornets on YouTube, we have the wheel of random Hornets content divided into what I believe, as I'm trying to count, are seven separate topics that we can discuss. They are lineups. In case you missed it, NBA draft. Thank you for killing the very loud noise. Hornets myths. In case you missed it, Summer League. In case you missed it, free agency. Who wore it best? And the win-loss column, where we give you hard-hitting analysis on the schedule ahead for the Charlotte Hornets and whether we think they're going to win or lose those games. This is what we prepped for, trying to figure out the jingles. Let's get it started, Doug. Spin that wheel.
I'm trying to prep the jingles, but also we've just got too much content. We've assembled all of these different segments over the summer, just trying to keep the train rolling, trying to keep your appetite filled, keep you satiated with Hornets content. And now we've just got too much. We've got, who wore it best. We've got to keep that train rolling. We've got to keep the win-losses rolling. And you and I have spent too much time at the beginning of the show debating which one of these to go to. So instead, we created this wheel. We said, let's leave it to the Hornets gods out there to decide what we will talk about next. And now we've stalled long enough. Let's spin it. Oh, yeah. All right.
On vacation. Oh, we're one that we've gone to quite a bit.
All right. Well, listen, we left it up. All right. Who wore it best? We left it up to chance, and it landed on who wore it best.
The
Walker, while I get it pulled
spoken.
up,
Okay, so
explain to the
I'll
people what that is.
All right, yeah, I'll explain the rules while you try to get out of the random wheel of topics and pull up all of the jerseys and the numbers of who wore it best in Charlotte Hornets / Bobcats land. So here are the rules. If you wore that number during your time with the Hornets or the Bobcats, then you are a candidate for who wore it best. For instance, Arnaldus Kuboka, he wore number 98. Number 98 had only been worn by Arnaldus, so he wore it best. But then you get to some of these other more complicated numbers where 9, 10 guys have worn it, and then you have to really try to decide. But it can only be during their time in that jersey. So some guys like Kenny Gaddison, they've switched their jersey number from 44 to 33.
Yeah, man,
you can't
that
take
cheated.
the entire career of Kenny Gaddison and apply it to one of those numbers. You have to divide it. This is the time you wore 33. This is the time you wore 44, and judge him based off of that specific amount of time. So I will leave the floor for you, Doug. You tell everybody all of the players that we've gone down so far and what number we're at now.
I know. Every time we recap this, I got to take a big, deep breath.
Yeah.
I might swallow some Hornets here.
Yeah.
Number 98 is going to Arnaldus Kuboka. Number 55, we gave it to Chris Douglas Roberts. Number 54 went to Nails, Lee Nalon. Number 52, the Geiger counter, Matt Geiger.
Don't mess
Number
up.
50, Emeka Okafor. Number 45, the Hammer, Armin Gilliam. Number 44 went to Derek Coleman. That one went to a vote. Number 43 went to the great Anthony Tolliver in his one brilliant season as a Charlotte
Brilliant.
Bobcat.
It was brilliant.
It was. Number 42 goes to P.J. Brown, the defensive stalwart. Number 41 goes to the great Glenn Rice. Number 40, of course, Cody Zeller, the sock man. Number 39, Tommy T. You remember the Cody Zeller sock. He always used to do the sock puppet.
I forgot about the sock puppet. I remember the gnome. I still have the Cody Zeller gnome.
Stupid gnats.
Are you doing this outside? Jeez.
Yeah, I know. It feels like it. All right, number 39 goes to Tommy T with the frosted tips, Tom Tolbert. Number 35, Gerald World Class Glass. Number 34 going to J.R. Reed. Number 33, of course, the great Alonzo Mourning. Number 32, we gave it to
Boris Diaw.
Boris Diaw. Yeah,
it
this was
feels
close.
dirty,
This is
but
tight.
we gave it to Boris Diaw.
I had to think about it, which I think says everything
Yep.
you need to know. All right, did we
Yep.
get to 31? Yes, we gave
We
31
did.
to Rambo. Kurt Rambis got number 31. And number 30,
Okay.
I
Have
think
not
that's
gotten to
this
this
is
one.
where we land. And
Yeah.
I think this one's going to be pretty easy.
Yeah, poor Joe Wolf, I believe a Tar Heel. Troy Daniels. Hey,
Troy Daniels! Troy Daniels has a better, I'm going to say something, maybe
yeah, I
controversial.
know. I was thinking it, but go ahead and go
Has
ahead
a
and
better
spill it.
moment. I mean, the miracle after midnight, beating Sacramento with that humongous 3 after midnight in the middle of the night in Sacramento when they were down to Frank Kaminsky as both center and power forward. It felt like they were only putting 4 guys
They
out on the
cloned
floor. DeMarcus Cousins had like 70 points. And Troy Daniels beats the Sacramento Kings on a wonderful 3. So he has the better moment.
I
but it's-
do feel weird saying that just because I don't know if I remember all of the Del Curry moments. I remember all of the Troy Daniels moments. I mean, Del Curry had game winners. I just don't. I remember
certainly.
a couple of the buzzer beaters. So, but it was an awesome moment. Miracle after midnight.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe Del Curry had some more probably substantial playoff performances, right? So if you if we look back in the record books, I'm sure that's not true. But to people of our age, it feels.
But don't
true,
do
and that's
that.
good
Just take
enough.
our word for it. It's really easy. Don't look at the record books.
Number 30 goes to DC 4-3, Del Curry.
We should click on his reference page before we move on.
Okay.
We should. Just to look at it.
Wardell, you of course knew this because Steph is also Wardell. Wardell, Stephen Curry went to Virginia, has a couple of boys in the league. Started his career out in Utah. I don't know if you knew that. 86, 87.
Yeah, a little bit of a weird stat for him to have started in Utah. I think most people remember him playing in Cleveland before the Hornets landed him in the expansion draft. I would say the best Charlotte ambassador as far as whoever played on the team. Del Curry has to be that guy because he was also a part of the team and now the color analyst, even after his playing career. One of the players that embraced his time. So did Muggsy Bogues, but Del Curry still being so much so in the Hornets conscious. I think he is the best ambassador. Plus, has some hardware, won Sixth Man of the Year award, so was constantly somebody that could help you out off of the bench, along with what was a decent team. So yeah, like Del Curry, don't get it twisted just from his commentating days. Like, dude could definitely ball.
Had his best, I think, statistical season in the 93-94 year. That was the year after the Boston Celtics first round victory. That was a disappointing year for the Charlotte Hornets. They didn't go back to the playoffs because they had big injuries to Zoe and to LJ. And so a lot of different people got more opportunity that season because those two were gone. So, you know, his best season scoring wise probably that season. But he started this is interesting. He started the most games in 95, 96. I don't know enough about that particular roster to speculate as to why he got 29 starts that season. But there you go. Some random DC for three stats.
Crazy 3-point shooting percentages he put up. Led the league with 47.6% from three on 3.5 attempts per game. One of those years. Yeah, I mean, clearly we know where Steph got it from and then was even able to expand off of that.
Number 27, winner by default, 2009, Dwayne Jones of the Charlotte Bobcats. Dwayne
has to be the
Jones.
Most surprising name on this list.
Out of St. Joe's. I honestly don't recall. I can't tell you that I recall anything about the Dwayne Jones's career.
All right. Had a year in the NBA, which is probably longer than I remember. 56 games in 07-08 with Cleveland. So he played with LeBron and actually got run. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
How many minutes per game here? 8.4. So yeah, a little run.
So because Dwayne Jones played 6 games for the Hornets and wore 27, he is qualified to have worn it best with the Charlotte Hornets. An unbelievable upset.
Okay, we move on to number 25. I think people are automatically going to go to Big Al on this one. He wore number 25 for the Bobcats and the Hornets from 2014 to 2016. But here are the other names. Earl Cureton from 89 to 91. Tony Bennett, Virginia coach. And I think a lot of people remember Tony Bennett in a Hornets uniform, 93 to 95. George Zedek. I love some Zedek from 96 to 97. Tim James in 2001. Some late Hornets run there. And then PJ Washington, little baby Al, 2020 to 2022, presently donning the 25.
Yeah, the real interesting conversation happens about 5, 6, 7 years from now if he's still on the team. Then you might have
that's a big
debate.
if, by the way.
It is. Absolutely, it's a big if. But that's how this gets interesting. PJ has the only shot to beat Al Jefferson in the who wore it best conversation. You get an All-NBA appearance. Unbelievable season that Al had his first year with the Bobcats. The most productive free agent signing this franchise has ever had. Gordon Hayward, the biggest, had a little more cachet as a star. Gordon Hayward playing with the Celtics, having already been an all-star himself before, plus just signing for more money. Yet still, Al Jefferson getting an All-NBA nod. Incredible year the first time around with the Bobcats.
I can't envision PJ Washington's game rising to the level of third team All-NBA.
No.
But I would say that I did not expect Al Jefferson's game to get there. I mean, I thought it was a good pickup, at the time, and one of the better free agency pickups in the franchise's history because they didn't have many of them. But PJ Washington, I don't know if it's going to get there. The other interesting thing about Al Jefferson is that there was some talk at the time about Kemba Walker doing a little bit of recruiting.
Yeah.
In terms of bringing Al Jefferson. And one wonders, as LaMelo Ball's cachet continues to rise in the league, if he would be willing to do that and, for the organization to go out there and say, hey, look, we're putting together something interesting. Would you like to come in and do this thing with me? I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I sure would like it.
I feel old seeing Al Jefferson's last year here be 2016 and it be 4 years before PJ. I feel like it does not seem that long ago. That's my contribution with the years.
I'll tell you, I've felt every year they haven't made the playoffs. I've felt every single one of them. I think we have time for one more.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll go to number 24, Jeff Gordon, who wore it best here for the Hornets.
The Rainbow Warrior.
He wore it best.
I was thinking it and you said it.
Yeah.
It's my favorite NASCAR driver, by the way.
Well, I bet people hated you here in Dale Earnhardt country. No way.
Well, this was, they say you're destined to sort of reject your father. And I think that was part of that. My dad was like a big Dale Earnhardt fan. And I was like, no, I don't like Dale Earnhardt. I like Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon was like the anti Dale Earnhardt.
Yes, he absolutely was. Yeah, he definitely was. Yeah, it's going to be easy here. It's going to be easy. But go ahead.
Okay, let me run down before you say that. You're leading all of the witnesses here. Number 24, Michael Williams, 1990. Anthony Frederick, 1992. Scott Burrell. Okay, Scotty Burrell had a moment here with the Hornets. Obviously, a lot of people remember him from The Last Dance being psychologically dismantled. But then in The Last Dance also profiled Scotty Burrell's, time with the Hornets, when they would rematch with the Chicago
That was
Bulls.
more BJ Armstrong.
Yeah. Wasn't Scotty Burrell on that team too, though?
I think,
94,
97, it would have been, no, because that would have been 97, 98.
Oh, yeah. Maybe Scott, I have it reversed then. Maybe Scott, yeah. So Scotty left Charlotte and went to Chicago. Okay.
That's right.
That's
how it happened. Just don't check.
Jamal Mashburn, 2001 to 2002. Now, see, you think this is easy, probably because of this next name, Jason Capono, the great 3-point marksman for the Charlotte Bobcats.
Well, if you're talking about a champion such as the one he won with the Miami Heat and a 3-point champion, so Jason Capono, I thought would be pretty easy for him to have worn number 24 best.
Yeah, Othello Harrington, 2007 and 08. And how about this one? Mason Plumlee donning the 2-4 right now in 2022. So who you got, Walker? Is it going to be Mason Plumlee, Jason Capono, or Jamal Mashburn? We all know how you feel about Jamal Mashburn. You always underrate Mash, one of the great offensive players in Charlotte Hornets history. So go ahead, give it to Mason Plumlee. I dare you.
I'm not. That is not something I'm about to do. I like Jamal Mashburn. I did not rate him as highly as you wanted me to on the top 30 Hornets of all time. I did find one of the more interesting stats on him, though, is that his 2-point field goal percentage was atrocious, and his 3-point shooting percentage was the thing that allowed him to be such a good offensive player. That is not something I remember, but if you look, 43% in 98, 99, and since it was 40%, 36, kind of hanging around, and then 38 the year that he went to New Orleans. But the 2-point percentage, Doug, surprisingly staying below 50.
Okay, but you have to understand that for that Hornets team and for the era, I mean, it wasn't like a crazy scoring part of the NBA's history. A lot of low-scoring games. And the Hornets team, they were a defensive team. I mean, they were holding teams regularly under 95 points, but they also weren't regularly scoring over 100 points. This was a team that was making, Paul Silas was making his money on the defensive end. So, a little bit of scoring went a long way, and MASH provided that. But this is what breaks my heart, and this is the last thing I have to say, because I just need to go into a dark corner and cry for a little while and get rid of these damn gnats. But this is what breaks my heart. 2002, 2003, the year after the Hornets left Charlotte, moved to New Orleans, MASH picks up his one and only All-Star bid. One of my favorite players in Hornets history. I could have been celebrating his All-Star shin.
That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for joining us and making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. Now make sure you go check out Locked On NBA, your daily 30-minute update on everything taking place within the association. This has been Locked On Hornets. Have a great day, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.